Good afternoon, Mr. Ali Lamont. How are you?
How are you doing, Mrs. English?
I'm fine.
Great, great.
Okay, I'm here today, honored by your company, and
Likewise.
and I would like for you, Ali Lamont, to tell the world who you are, what you're all about, and what you've been through. Can you give us a little idea about who is Ali Lamont?
Well, first I want to start by saying that I was born Ali David Lamont Jr. to my parents, Ali Lamont David Sr. and Edna Vermel Marshall Lamont on January 3rd, 1939, in a place in North Carolina called Kinston, North Carolina.
Okay.
Um, my parents eventually left Kinston, North Carolina, and went to their hometown, which was in Burgall, North Carolina, Long Creek, in that area, not too far from Wilmington, North Carolina. And there I grew up and went to a school called C.F. Pope High School, which was an all-black high school. From there I graduated in 1957. After 1957, after working the cornfields, the cotton fields, picking blueberries, picking cotton, picking apples and pears and cropping tobacco and all that kind of stuff, I came to New York in 1957. I stayed with my late and dear auntie by the name of Mittie Lamont at 176 Elder Street over in Manhattan, around Delancey Street. From there I found my cousin who lived in Red Hook, North Carolina at 16 Mill Street in the projects. And from there, got a few jobs, worked here and there. And I eventually met a young lady by the name of Frida Safi. She lived upstairs. We later on dated. She became pregnant, and we got married in June of 1958. In that year, around November, my first child was born, and named Priscilla Lamont. But let me tell you a little bit about Priscilla. It's a name that runs through my family. I had a sister named Priscilla. I had my great-grandmother whose name was Priscilla. I had some aunts that were named Priscilla. So my first child was named Priscilla. And after that, I met my uncles who came back and forth from North Carolina. They was in the Nation of Islam at the time. My uncle Condon, my uncle Joseph, and who was called Brother William, and my uncle John Henry. They encouraged me to go into the Nation of Islam around in the early 60s under the tutoring of Brother Malcolm X. And from there, after a few months with Brother Malcolm and the NAACP, they were in turmoil. All black organizations was on notice by J. Edgar Hoover that they were either socialist, communist, or something that had to be gotten rid of. And they had a list of people who he felt that should be investigated and thrown in jail. And I think the Nation of Islam was one of them, and it was the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So anyway, Dr. King was demonstrating in the South, and Brother Malcolm got up, come in one Sunday morning and asked for brothers to volunteer to go and protect civil rights workers down south with the demonstration and protect Dr. King. And I was one of those brothers. There was hundreds of them that had joined, but I was one of those brothers who was prepared to go down south. But anyway, somewhere along in there, President Kennedy wanted me to go to the armed forces. Wrote me a letter from the draft board. I think I was class A. I think it was classification class A, but it put me at the top of the list to go. So we got on this letter writing campaign about me going, and I'm telling them that I'm not going. They want to know why, and we got back and forth. And I think that back and forth ended one day when I wrote the Attorney General Robert Kennedy, I think was at that time, and told him I didn't have no uncle named Sam.
All right now.
So there was a few days, you understand what I'm saying, on my job. I was working at Contemporary Living, which was on Kings Highway in East 17th Street. It didn't take them long for them two tall white boys to come in on my job and take me downtown in Brooklyn, which was in the Eastern District, the old post office off of I think it was Court Street. Anyway, they wanted to know why I didn't want to go. So they interviewed me for a couple of hours. And it wasn't long after that they took me to West Street. Told me I was under arrest for violation of selective service.
Oh, I remember those days.
After a few months, in West Street Federal Detention Center, I went back before the judge in the Eastern District, and I was sentenced, I think, to 18 months for violation of selective service. So after that, I went to a place. They took me to a place called Danbury, Connecticut. I didn't know anything about it. To a detention center they called Pembroke Station. And I stayed there until I was released. Naturally, now my mother and father, they was all upset because we don't have people in our family who go to jail, and I could have easily went to selective service, and because I didn't have to go to jail, and they even told me that we don't want to lock you up.
But Jesus went to jail, didn't he?
But if you just say that you're a conscientious objector, then the only thing you won't go to war. The only thing you do is work on a government facility if it ain't nothing but trimming hedges or cleaning the grounds for a little while, and you will be released. So I said, no, I'm not going to fight for the United States government. And then when I thought about it in the long run, I said, maybe I should go ahead on, because my mother, they were bugging me and whatnot. By the time I changed my mind, I said, you don't, you're going to go to jail. So anyway, I went to jail and did my time. I came back out, and I still didn't know how to act, so I forgot one of my reporting dates.
Okay.
And I went back. They took me back. I finished up my time, and they put me back out. And so anyway, my wife at the time, she used to go playing cards with some people. And she kept telling me about this gentleman who was one of Malcolm X's bodyguards, who lived down the street when we lived out on Cotillo Road. And after a few months of her telling me I need to talk to him, eventually I went and talked with him.
Right.
And his name was Charles Hale, who was one of Malcolm's bodyguards. So anyway, Charles Hale took me to see Sonny Carson. who had his office at 1233 Fulton Street.
All right.
And after that, after that introduction, I like what Sonny was saying. And in particular, he had just had an election with Major Owens, who was director of the Brooklyn Congress of Racial Equality Corps, under the guidance of Dr. Floyd McKissick. So anyway, Sonny and I, we